The following Let's Play has been rated perfectly fine to watch. Any attempts to break the game are for entertainment value only. However, if any typos happen to be found, mwahahaha! Hello everyone! Welcome to this game! Now, some of my younger viewers may be wondering, okay, why is there a border around this game? Well, once upon a time, Nintendo released this absolutely fantastic accessory for the Super Nintendo called the Super Game Boy. And it allowed you to play your old Game Boy games in living color. And I know what some of you are thinking, well, can't you play games in color on Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Player too? And the Game Boy Advance? Well, the difference here is, first off, you got the border, of course, because Game Boy games are not going to fit on a TV screen. So they added the border. But more importantly, there were certain games on the Game Boy that were specifically made with the Super Game Boy in mind. For example, you got this border here. And also, you notice that the colors here are a lot more interesting than the press A, up, whatever button combinations that you had available for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Player. Now, this is based on the original Donkey Kong from the arcade, but as you can tell from this demonstration, it is a little bit different. And well, actually, it's a lot different, as you'll find out soon. Now, I have something to explain here, and it is relevant to this Let's Play. The reason I'm doing this Let's Play is out of spite for the 15-minute limit that has been imposed on me. Because, as some of you may recall, I have been hit with the 15-minute limit because, I don't know, because YouTube is stupid. I removed all 4 videos that were copyright hit or flagged or what have you, and after a day it appeared that my limit was removed and I could upload videos of whatever length I want again. It's going into demo mode. But apparently it's a lie, because when I tried uploading another video, even though it said I could upload longer than 15 minutes, it was rejected. That was a very short demo. Anyway, with that explained, we are going to go ahead and start this. Oh, and there are also other advantages with the Super Game Boy. Some pretty neat stuff done with the Super Game Boy. Like, for example, there's this game called... There's this Game Boy version of Space Invaders, where instead of the border, you have the option of filling the entire screen with a Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders, which is really awesome. Actually, let me show off some of the features here. This is the Super Game Boy's menu. First off, you got your palette swaps. You got, for Super Game Boy games that have custom colors, you got this icon here. But otherwise, you'd be doing various amount of, whichever of these you want, which are... Some of them are kind of sucky, and some of them are nice. This one in particular, I like to use for Super Mario Land 2. Let's go back to that. Over here, we got border choices. Once again, if the Super Game Boy game has custom border, it will be displayed here. In fact, some Super Game Boy games have more than one special border. For example, Game & Watch Gallery. And also, I'm pretty sure Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 has more than one border. Let's see here, we also got some of these borders. Well, here's the default border. Super Game Boy. That's what it defaults to if you don't have a Super Game Boy border available to you. And of course, there's some of these other borders. The neat thing about some of these borders is if you just let the game sit for a while, some of these borders will start animating. For example, this one, the people down there will get bored and start talking. The two kids on the left will start playing Game Boy using a link cable. The lights will turn on. I'm not going to show that off because it takes a while for that stuff to take effect. And over here we get to choose our control method, either classic A and B, or for more Super Nintendo style, B and Y, which would act as A and B. And I'm going to use this because I'm used to using Super Nintendo controls on the Super Nintendo controller. Over here is something especially interesting, although not as interesting as what I'll show off next. You can completely customize your color palette. So if you wanted to your game to look like puke, well, there you go. Screw that though. Oh, and you also got, I'm not entirely sure what that does. I think it's freeze frames the game for you. Not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've used this Game Boy game. Also, over here, if you do this, you can lighten and darken the certain colors. But we're going to, oh, and up here is a password thing. If you like a certain color palette that you like, write down the password. I believe it's like every 3 numbers reflects one of these down here. Now here's the most interesting feature. You can create a custom border, which is pretty cool. And not only can you create just a custom border, by the way, the Super Nintendo, or the Super Game Boy, can use the Super Nintendo mouse. Unfortunately, I don't have a Super Nintendo mouse. But not only can you just draw on the borders whatever scenery you want, but if you click this option here, you can draw on the screen. So if you wanted to obscure certain information about the game, well, you can do that. And there's the undo button and the clear button. This also has a custom thing where if you sit still for a while, I think a little guy will start coming across and wipe everything that you did. Temporarily. Speaking of temporary, the unfortunate thing with that border is it does not save your custom border, so before you turn your game off, you'll probably want to do a snapshot. Anyway, that's the Super Game Boy in a nutshell. Now, here I have 3 save files, as you can already tell. First off, this is one of those rare games that actually saves how many lives you have. As you can tell, lives do not matter in this game very much. And there are 9 worlds, and you can select whichever world you wanted to start at if you progress far enough in the game. We're going to start at 0-1, but not on an existing save file. We're going to go ahead and do this. Clear OK? Yeah, sure. Hey, it's a new file. Let's go ahead and begin. So, at first it starts off like the original Donkey Kong on the arcade. Better graphics overall. But as you are about to find out, and as I pointed out earlier, this is not your original Donkey Kong. Aw, I almost did super stuff there. Oh well, it was super enough. I'm not going to do that throughout the whole game, I just wanted to show that off. And you get points and a top score depending on how fast you go. In fact, there's a high score list that you can access that compares all the times left over on the save files. Alright, now I'm going to play the normal way. Mostly. I want to grab this. Those of you who remember the original Donkey Kong will remember that the hammer, well, it does that. Now, what you couldn't do in the original was toss the hammer away if you wanted to. That way, if you wanted to do something like this, oops, you can. Now, I'm going to go over here real quick to collect these 1-ups. Hopefully. Get off of there. Thank you. And then I'm going to go over here, where there aren't any enemies. Climb up the ladder while it's up, and there's that level done. Now, as you can hear, Pauline goes, "Help! Help!" That is a Super Game Boy enhancement. If you play this on any other machine, all you'll get is this chipset sound that's like, ah, ah, and it's kind of annoying. So that's another thing that the Super Game Boy can do. It can take certain sound noises that are only capable for the Super Nintendo. I probably could have explained that better, but I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm talking about. And this is probably the most famous level of the original Donkey Kong, aside from level 1. It's also easier. Alright, let's finish this in a hurry. Oh, you would go over there. Come back down. Thank you. But it's easier because in the original game, first off, the jumps weren't as easy to make, but also, those were harder to dodge and they came out a whole lot more frequent. Also, the original arcade game did not have the song on that level. But unlike the original game, this is a little bit easier to start with because they wanted to make sure that you did not get scared off, considering this is only World 0 out of 9. Can I get up here real quick? Got ya! So basically the idea here is travel across those to make DK fall. And by the way, no, you cannot hit DK with the hammer. If you get too close to him, what it'll do is pick you up and toss you off the stage and you lose a life. Normally this is where the arcade game would end, but plot twist. And then we have a little cutscene every 4 levels. Looks like he's heading... Butt wiggle. Looks like he's heading into the city. And here's the gimmick for the game. You pick up the key, you go to the door, you unlock the door, and that's how you're gonna beat the levels in this game. And then you get 1-ups based on how much time left over you had. And that's how you're gonna rack up most of your lives, along with the bonus games. Anyway, we're getting close to 15 minutes here. I kind of don't like that limit. I have a backup plan. If this doesn't work out, I'm going to give this a week. If this doesn't work out, I have another account that I'll move to that doesn't have the time limit. But for now, I'm doing this out of spite. Screw you, YouTube. I'll see you next time. Oh, and this will be a daily thing. Maybe double daily. So, yeah, I'll see you next time.